Good morning, everyone. My name is Laurel Seppala-Etra, and I serve as co-chair of our worship team. One thing I love about this congregation is our lay-led services, and you'll be experiencing one today. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. I want to take a moment to extend a very warm welcome to everyone. If you're joining us online, fill out a visitor form in the link in the description. We'd love to connect with you. Some of us are bringing our best selves to this space, and some of us are bringing our struggling selves. All of us are welcome here, and all of us are loved. Some of us already have open hearts, and some of us aren't quite there yet, because our hearts have gotten a little beat up this week and might have forgotten how to trust and open. Your heart is welcome here, no matter how bruised. We welcome you among us. All of us are imperfect, but we're here to drop our defenses and trust that what happens in worship is powerful and life-giving. Together, we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser than when we woke up this morning. We welcome you here. I have a couple of announcements. From our membership and connection team, we are in the process of updating our internal photo directory. Next Sunday on Easter, members of that team will be in coffee hour after the service asking to take your photo for the directory. And then we have a special announcement from our music director, Dr. Emily, followed by our Pledge Drive co-chair, Jack Doggett.
I actually have two announcements this morning. The first is that while we're always grateful for our fabulous Chancel Cats, who will be writing music today, yay! We also have a special guest this morning, the Director of Music at the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, Tad Koriath, who also happens to be my husband. But what I'm really up here to tell you is that this afternoon after the service is our musicians open house. So if you play an instrument of any kind, I hope you brought it with you. And if not, fear not. We would love to have you come say hello. Everybody will go get snacks after the service ends, and then I'll ring the bell to gather us back in here in the back of the room so we can arrange the chairs to accommodate for the necks of guitars and basses and bagpipes and whatever else you have. I've got a little packet of stuff for us to play through together. And if you can't stay, please come see me because I have a little interest form that I'd love for you to fill out. This is really just for me to keep getting to know the abundance of musical gifts in the congregation. I'd love to know what you play and how often you love to be included in services, and I'm kind of starting a database of that. So if you forgot, or if you don't have an instrument, or if you know somebody in your family or your immediate circle, and you could take the form back to them and then bring it to me, I would love to start gathering all of our forces together. So thank you. Jack?
Good morning. I'm bringing Pledge Drive energy to you this morning. The good news is from the half full, half empty school, we have 2/3 of our pledges in. We greatly appreciate that. That was the easy part. The half empty part is there's still 1/3 of you out there. And our pledge stewards are doing a wonderful job of reminding you / harassing you. Several people came in this morning and said, I have it at home, but it tends to hide from me when I'm on my way to church. And I forget it. So I have forms out in the lobby at my little table covered with green, and I'd be glad, and I have a pen here. So we can just bring this together after church, So look forward to seeing you there. Thanks.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Chris Zanoni. As we begin our worship service this morning, I want to share with you a value I find in our gathering. The gifts of justice and equity was the theme for last month's Soul Matters groups. A personal warm-up prompt, what was your first moment of fighting injustice as an adult, led me to consider when I first became aware of social justice. I'm a child of the 60s. Women's roles were very traditional. I was raised Catholic, very Catholic. My maternal grandparents were first-generation Irish Catholic. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. My favorite aunt, Sister Eileen Dolores, was a sister of St. Joseph. She was delightful. Knowing her gave me an opportunity to see nuns as real people behind the habit. She lived her faith in a life of service in Catholic schools and hospitals. My grade school teachers at Resurrection of Our Lord Catholic School were Sisters of St. Francis. They appeared to be strong women who ran a tight ship. When Sister said, it carried weight in the classroom. At some point, I realized that men, specifically the parish priest, appeared to be at the top of the pecking order. Father's word was sacrosanct and outranked, Sister said. Priests presided at the altar. Women could not be priests. Only boys could serve as altar boys. Girls need not apply. Although women did have a place in the altar, serving in the sacristy by caring for the sacred vessels, altar linens, and vestments used by the priest at Mass. Things changed at Notre Dame Catholic Girls High School with the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur. Most sisters had recently transitioned from the traditional nun's habit to more conventional women's garb. The curriculum had recently changed to include classes like world religions, where we learned about other beliefs and cultures. Once again, most of my teachers were nuns. However, these sisters were a different brand of activist nuns. After my third year of Spanish classes, my favorite teacher, Sister Ann, and chemistry teacher, Sister Gail, moved to Apopka, Florida, to work with Cesar Chavez's migrant farm workers. They partnered with residents and local groups to address social problems such as illiteracy, lack of access to health care, and economic injustices. More than 50 years later, their work in Florida still continues. After years of teaching classes that opened our eyes to a larger world, Sister Christopher, Sister Marianne, and Sister Jean each moved on to ministries focusing on addressing urban poverty and working for peace. By taking action towards social justice, they were role models in the truest sense of the word. It was time for learning more about what was outside my little corner of the world. And years ago, I met Sister Simone Campbell, an outspoken social justice advocate. She's best known as the leader of Nuns on the Bus. Perhaps you've heard of them. It's a small group of religious teachers, sisters, who made tours on a dedicated bus to highlight social issues. She was among those identified by then Pope Benedict's investigation of American nuns for communist views and promoting certain radical feminist themes incompatible with the Catholic faith. Pope Francis ended that investigation in 2015. Sister Simone was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Biden in 2022. So that's some of the history that brought me to a Unitarian Universalist church. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I know some of your stories, yeah. That was one Sunday morning 22 years ago. Over the years between grade school, high school, college, adulting as a wife and parent, and a career in both for-profit and nonprofit organizations, I'd witnessed women working for equal rights and opportunities in both religious and secular settings. My husband Tom and I were searching for community when we moved to Parker after years of living and working here in Boulder County. We learned about a religion called Unitarian Universalism, and most closely matched our responses in the BeliefNet.com online survey. How many BeliefNet.com folks? Okay, a couple hands out there. So we walked into a school gymnasium where Prairie Unitarian Universalist Church met. And in the front of the gathering, there was a woman minister leading the congregation, Reverend Jan Halloran. I realized I'd found a home and a sense of my spiritual self. Among Prairie's congregants was Kelly Dignan, whom I'd see again a few years later when we returned to Boulder County. We first walked into UUCB on May 3rd, 2015, the day you called Reverend Kelly as your settled minister. Imagine that, a woman leading the congregation. Back then, I had no idea I'd find so many like-minded individuals and opportunities to learn about and actively work for a wide variety of social justice causes and rights. Here at UUCB, I've seen the full demographic range of women, new babies, our hope for the future, all the way to nonagenarians who went before, women like Betty Skip, Marge Mago, who've led rich and fascinating lives and were also role models and trailblazers in their respective fields. I found my home. Welcome to our time together this morning. Please rise and body your spirit and join in singing hymn number 86, Blessed Spirit of My Life, in the gray hymnal.
This morning we are featuring music by women songwriters. Shelley Jackson Denham is one of the gems of Unitarian Universalist hymnody. She was born in 1950 and passed away just a handful of years ago. She's also the author of number 55, Dark of Winter, which is one of my spirit songs, and We Laugh, We Cry, among some other favorites. Blessed Spirit of My Life, the Reverend Kimberly Debus in her blog, The Far Fringe, where she examines every hymn in our collective hymnody, mentions that Blessed Spirit of My Life is a beautiful prayer, and we wouldn't go amiss if each of us sang it every single day.
Our flaming chalice is the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It suggests, perhaps, that within our separate selves burns a flame of unity and connection and compassion. Once felt, that fire cannot be extinguished, and so we gather, weaving our lives together. I'd like to invite Kaitlin Abbitt to light this morning's chalice.
Good morning. My name is Kaitlin Abbitt, and I've been a member of UUCB since early 2017. In July of last year, I began a 3-year term as a member of the Board of Trustees. Many of you might be more likely to recognize one of my children, Corbin or Fletcher, though that's debatable these days given how much they've grown since our early days at the church, with Fletcher waddling around like he owned the place. Today's service includes reflections on Women's History Month, and today also marks about a week until the end of our annual pledge drive. I wanted to share just a little bit about what this church means to me and why our family supports the church each year financially. I am the only child of a single mother who was the only child of a widowed mother. I grew up in a household of strong women. We called ourselves the Lewis Girls. My grandmother, Anne, was in the first graduating class of Florida State University after it transitioned from Florida State College for Women, and went on to work as a research chemist at the National Institute for Standards, the University of Florida, and the University of Rochester. In a time when many women were just venturing into the workforce, she was supporting herself and her young daughter in a field wildly dominated by men. My mom, Barb, was a child of the 60s, with opinions and experiences to match. She graduated nursing school not long before I was born and spent about 30 years primarily in labor and delivery and the NICU, always advocating for her patients, often serving as a leader and expert in neonatal nursing care. Some of you might know that not long before we moved to Colorado in 2016, my mom passed away at the age of 63. She'd been a smoker for over 40 years and struggled with both COPD and congestive heart failure. My grandmother had passed away at 67 when she passed away after a 3-year battle with lung cancer that spread to her brain. When we joined UUCB, a large reason for doing so was the support we knew our kids would receive through multi-generational services, the youth programs, OWL, and generally having a supportive environment that wasn't just the Southern Christian churches that Billy and I had grown up around. What I didn't realize was the wealth of experiences the elders of this church would share with me, especially the many strong women. I didn't get much of an opportunity to see my mother or my grandmother age, much less age well, or live actively after retirement. But at UUCB, I'm connected briefly or in deeper ways with people of all ages who provide mentorship, support, a listening ear, and a vision for the different ways adult growth might look. It's something I didn't know I needed until I realized how much less I worry about my own aging and mortality. I no longer only have fears about growing older, but things I look forward to and experiences I can't wait to have. This is just one way that UUCB provides a space and a place for my family and for me to grow. Each year we pledge to support the church financially. This year, we're increasing our pledge to help support the vital work of the church, but especially to ensure pay equity for the staff and minister, as well as the expansion of our membership and connections manager role. I hope that you'll join me and consider increasing your pledge by 15% or more this year. I light today's chalice in honor of the seen and unseen ways our community supports one another, for the women of all ages who show me the multitude of ways to show up and experience life and engage, and for the generosity of this community.
We are not bound together by creed, a specific list of things we all believe exactly the same way. We are united by shared values expressed in our 7 principles and by the commitments we make to each other about what creates this community. To name that commitment, will you join together in person and online and as you are able and speak our covenant aloud as one? We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it. In our gathering, let us take a moment to breathe in. to breathe out, to be aware of our bodies. These words are from Buddhist meditation teacher Leslie Booker. Feel gravity pulling down, rooting this body, connecting it to the earth. Feel the sense of solidity, knowing this body as earth element. Feel earth, holding earth. In this stillness, you might begin to feel the sense of movement. It could be a little vibration, a shimmering. Or you could feel a bigger movement. Perhaps the body is rocking, soothing itself. Whether it's in the stillness of the movement or the movement, you might feel a sense of ease in the body, a place where you can rest, a place that allows you a sense of ease and peace. Keep coming back to this anchor as we sit in silence together. As we are together in silence, so we may be together in our joys and sorrows. Bring to mind those things for which you are grateful or joyful. We have a couple of blessings that I will read today. Just
It's not going out in public, but there is an announcement that people would like to see your response to that I'm videotaping for them later.
So first of all, Adrian Hester on Tuesday is going to have her 90th birthday. Okay. Sorry. I wanted to leave the best for second time.
I need to be a little higher.
Okay. Baby Duncan Wolf is here. Anton Michael Duncan Wolf was born March 22nd at 4:48 a.m., 6 pounds, 7 ounces, 19.25 inches long.
Thank you. Also, Mom and Dad and baby are all well. They're exhausted and tired.
They should be. Thank you, Rachel. Bring to mind those things for which you grieve or worry. 2 concerns we have today. Ellen Lilly is recovering well from a recent fall. Our emeritus minister, Stan Stefancic, has metastasized brain cancer and is being treated with whole brain radiation for 10 sessions in 2 weeks. It is pain-free. He is his usual self, positive, living moment to moment. For all the joys and sorrows on our hearts, we hold this compassionate space with love. For those meeting in person, I invite you to come forward as you feel so moved, starting with the back of the room, then folks next to the windows, followed by those in front. Silently take a stone and place it into the earth to symbolize your joys and your cares, taking their place in a larger whole, mingling with each other, held in the hand of the earth.
if you're not familiar, whoa, over here. If you're not familiar with the music of Endless Revolution, that's the performing name of the singer-songwriter duo of Pat Humphries and Sandy O, Unitarian Universalism's answer to the Indigo Girls. Their entire catalog is pop rock tunes based on Unitarian Universalist values. So you'll actually hear two of their songs today. The first is Swimming to the Other Side, which is a beautiful anthem about community and togetherness and our unity in struggle.
We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. I am alone and I am searching, hungering for answers in my time. I am balanced at the brink of wisdom. I'm impatient to receive a sign. I move forward with my senses open. Imperfection, it be my crime. In humility, I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. On this journey through thoughts and feelings, binding intuition, my head, my heart, I am gathering the tools together. I'm preparing to do my part. All of those who have come
So thank you for that. That was, let me get my positioned right so I can see it. It's my first time up here, so go easy on me, and can everybody hear me? Thank you, Diane. Our service this morning is scheduled, as we said, during Women's History Month. And as mentioned by Chris, we as UUs welcome all women, and we see them in leadership, we see them throughout our congregations, we see them throughout our denomination, and we see them today in our lay-led service. So at my age, which is in the 60s, in the late 60s, I wasn't quite a child of the 60s, I kind of college right after that. I sometimes look back, 70s, thank you. I sometimes look back and think of the exceptional opportunities that I had, some that weren't even available to my mom. I was praised for being studious. I went to college, thank goodness, encouraged to go, switch majors several times, added a master's degree, so education was not an issue. As I became an adult, guess what? I voted, right? I earned a living. I opened a bank account. I would go to doctors, usually women, and have access to family planning. I bought a house on my own. I moved and lived where I wanted to live. I had a professional career and worked with many diverse groups of people. And I'm sure none of you are sitting there surprised by my experience, because it was all so normal for me and my time. I was very fortunate. And I don't want to diminish the challenges that we have now, but I know that my experience, my life, and my opportunities came because so many influential women looked at their place in time and somehow pushed forward beyond their limitations. So I recently went to a memorial service. A friend of mine's mother had passed away, and she was an interesting lady. She taught home ec, but she also flew airplanes. Pretty cool, huh? Her granddaughter gave a wonderful talk about her grandmother's life and accomplishments, and she used a quote by Amelia Earhart that resonated with me. "Never interrupt someone doing what you said couldn't be done." As many of you know, I grew up in the Deep South in the Southern Baptist churches, and let's say I spent probably more hours in church than I did in school a lot of times. It was a place where the minister, staff, and deacons were all men. And to prepare for this talk, I was kind of not really doing a compare and contrast, but I was really interested in knowing what some of the history of women were in the Baptist church, even though I was raised there. Believe it or not, they didn't teach that much. So I found it to be quite hard to find and hard to nail down. I did find out in the early days, Baptist women founded churches and held leadership roles. But as the church became more organized, and we know what happened around the 1860s, women leadership was restricted, and history was even rewritten within the church. And while many groups have moved forward with women's roles and women's roles in leadership, the Southern Baptist Convention has taken many steps back, currently restricting any women's roles that minister to men. With that said, I do want to give a shout out to the Baptist women who raised me. In addition to my mom, I had a wonderful grandmother, very strong, aunts, various church ladies who loved and nurtured me as I grew up. They were strong, capable, and forgiving. And I just added this now, Baptist women ministers, there's a group, they've been expelled. Some of them, their churches have been expelled from the convention. But they do have a group, and their hashtag is Limiting Women Limits God. So I'm not a lifelong UU. I joined the UU church as an adult and a parent after a big lapse in congregation life. I wanted my sons to have a bigger view of the world. So I took this week's opportunity to do a deeper dive about UU women who not only shaped the church, but shaped history as well. Again, never interrupt someone doing what you said couldn't be done. What I found was that many UU women worked tirelessly to expand opportunities as educators, as abolitionists, suffragettes, and the later activists in things like the women's movement, civil rights. These women were involved in movements that were bigger than their congregations and laid the foundation for societal changes. And it's kind of hard now, like I said, all the things I was able to do, it's kind of hard to look back in time and think what restrictions these women had. So I picked one example, Judith Sargent Murray. I don't know if any of you are familiar, but she was born in Massachusetts in 1751 and lived when the world map, our country especially, was being redrawn through revolution. Her time was during the Age of Enlightenment, where reason, individualism, and skepticism were the philosophies of the day. As for Murray, she was born into privilege. She had a restricted education because she was a woman. She was able to tag on to her brother's tutor and learn from that tutor while he was studying to go to Harvard. And while she was not able to attend college, she educated herself through the family library, studying history, philosophy, and literature. But she was a person of privilege, so that was available to her. She did write and publish about gender limitations of her time in books and essays with themes about nurturing girls to have a confidence that comes from what she called a thriving intellectual existence. She had a better-known essay on the equality of sexes, and she highlights limited educational opportunities for women. And she was even brave enough to challenge an archetypal stereotype, Eve. You know, the woman in the garden, chatting with the servant, holding the apple up, tempting Adam. But she portrays her not as the weak-willed seductress who brought Adam and all the descendants down, but as someone seeking a perfection of knowledge, viewing her as inspirational and noble. So her ties to UU, she and her family helped fund and create the first Universalist church in the nation. She authored a Universalist catechism in 1782, and if you want to get some feeling of point in time in Universalism at that time, it's interesting to go back and read that. She identified herself as a citizen of the world. She used her writings about universal humanity, transcendent of gender, politics, and nations. Pretty forward thinking, right? But while her ideas did influence the future, she still had limitations of her place and her time. She had to publish under a male persona, even as she was espousing gender equality, and her sphere was limited to peers in her economic class rather than women from other stations in life. But she is just one of the many women I found who influenced our religion and society in general. As society kept changing, many UU women were on the forefront of these changes. And we have so many women to thank and many role models for our children. Olympia Brown, was Rachel still here? I don't know. I think she mentioned her this morning, was one of a small number of women to graduate from college and became the first woman to graduate from a theological school. She was the first woman to be ordained as a minister of our denomination. We have Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, an abolitionist, author, poet, suffragist, one of the first African-American women to be published in the United States. Margaret Mosley was a community activist for civil rights and housing laws in Massachusetts. And if you go online and search for UU women in history, you'll find many more. There's great role models. And like all people in history, these women worked hard to advance the ideas of change that may not have been realized in their time. When Judith Sargent Murray was writing her pieces, I don't know if she could imagine me standing here today. So it reminds me of a quote from Under the Tuscan Sun. I'm a sucker for rom-coms, so. And it's about building a life. And it was a quote that was in that movie. There's a section of the Alps called the Simmering. It is an impossibly steep, very high part of the mountains. They built a train track over these Alps to connect Vienna and Venice. And they built these tracks even before there was a train in existence that could make the trip. They built it because they knew someday the train would come. So each story I mentioned with countless others laid tracks that changed history, thank goodness. I have gratitude that my life was better because so many women before me fought for equality, the right to vote, civil rights, owning property, reproductive rights, and lots of these women were involved in UU congregations. And now's the time we are experiencing a bit of a loss of some of those rights and a fear that this may be the start of many more losses in the current political and legal environments. So my call to you and me, let's get busy, see how we can keep building tracks for our children. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jess Rempel. My wife and I have had the joy of attending this church for, I guess, the better part of a year now, we figured out this morning. So I guess you could say it's getting pretty serious, and we're really enjoying it. I was reflecting on what to write and share this morning, and felt a little intimidated by the erudition and articulateness of the wonderful women leaders that we already have in this church. And I kind of thought, like, oh boy, what am I going to add to that? What I hit upon in kind of, speaking to the other members of the lay-led worship team and doing my own reflection was just gratitude to strong and wonderful women in my life who've really been there for me, not just, as I'm living my life, although that's certainly been true, but specifically at inflection points where I've been vulnerable or growing. It's always been the women in my life who've really kind of helped me to come through that better. So the first woman I want to lift up is my mother, which I know that's been done, but she's absolutely a wonderful human being, and the through line in her caring for me and my sister as we were growing up was always how to be a caring and kind person and what that means at different points in your childhood and adolescence. One salient example of this was when I was in middle school. I remember distinctly that at the time, us boys in middle school were all earnestly pursuing what it meant to be a real man and to grow into a man. And of course, that meant showing no fear or pain and dominating each other all the time. That's what men do. So we thought, when I read Lord of the Flies in high school years later, I reflected back on this time in my life, and it felt familiar. One of the ways this dynamic would play out was that we would slug each other on the shoulder, not playfully, it wasn't a pleasant thing, but then after you hit the other guy, you had to really kind of look and make sure that he didn't betray any wincing or pain. You had to make sure that he was a man. And if they did wince, you had to immediately correct them. If they said it was painful, you said, no, it wasn't. Which made us all miserable, but those were the rules of the game. That's how we did it. And I brought this behavior home, again, I think this is what boys are supposed to do, so, and I inflicted it on my poor, long-suffering sister. And needless to say, neither she nor my mom were impressed. And she protested. She said, "Ow, that hurts." And I gaslighted her, saying, "No, it's not." And Mom said, "Yes, it does. If she says it hurts, it hurts. You need to stop doing that." And of course, I felt ashamed. I felt chastised, but mostly I just felt relieved by the sanity of my mom. And just thinking, gosh, yeah. Feeling pain isn't some kind of manly failing, it just hurts. To inflict that on other people also is not how you're a caring person. My mother had shown me better, so I carried that forward from that. The next woman I want to lift up is my Bible and religion professor, my late professor. She passed a couple years ago, Patty Shelley. And Patty was an extremely learned woman. She had a PhD. She was one of the first women to be ordained in the Mennonite denomination. And she, when she was sort of interviewing for the job at First Mennonite down in Denver, one of the, I guess the board, whoever, who needed to sign off on her being ordained came up to her and said, it's my personal conviction that, women shouldn't be in positions of leadership, but I'll sign this if you want me to. And she said, well, yeah, I want you to. I feel like I have a calling from God to do this, so, sign the papers. Another thing I really appreciated about Patty, I'm going to add this, Alice, because of your reflection, was her interpretation of the story of Eve. We talked about, she said Eve wasn't, seduced into taking a bite of the apple by the serpent. She heard both sides. She made an informed theological decision. And then Adam just kind of rolled with her. So I was like, huh. That was Patty. She also had a great interest in interfaith dialogue, which can be a sticky area. And I took many classes with her, which were all a joy, but she took us on these field trips. One was to a Hindu temple. She also took us to an Eastern Orthodox cathedral, an Islamic mosque, a Pure Land Buddhist temple, a Soto Zen Buddhist gathering, a progressive Jewish synagogue, and a conservative Jewish synagogue. Anytime after those trips that we would ask her clarifying questions, she'd sort of refer us back to what the people had told us on the trip. She'd say, well, it's their faith. What did they say? What were their words? You need to understand these things before you can talk to them about your own faith, and especially if you're going to disagree. The context for these classes was at a small Christian college in rural Kansas, where the idea that a certain brand of Christianity, a certain way of having faith, was the only way to have faith and be saved, which had a specific meaning in that context. And that wasn't universal by any means, but it was definitely dyed in the wool there. And, whether or how one needed to be saved, whether or how one even needed to be Christian, were acrimoniously debated among different groups of students at that campus, and I among them. I was using my Bible learning from my classes I was taking as a cudgel to beat sense into the people around me who didn't understand the Bible according to my understanding of it. And not surprisingly, I usually wasn't successful in convincing my more conservative peers of anything. And moreover, I didn't leave those conversations with a good feeling in the pit of my stomach. It just felt icky. And sort of through taking my classes with Patty was how I learned to have those dialogues in a constructive way and seek first to understand. And I loved Patty because she wasn't really didactic about it. It wasn't like learning how to be a counselor or anything like that. But she just showed us, this is how you do it. This is how you have conversations with people of other faiths. The third woman I would like to lift up is a former supervisor of mine when I was working as an occupational therapist in outpatient pediatrics. Her name is Tracy, and Tracy is a wonderful person whom I found deeply intimidating. She read neuroscience journals just in her free time for fun. She provided ongoing education classes in addition to managing a clinic that was mostly serving socioeconomically disadvantaged people. So, she managed to sort of be all these different roles to all these different people. And I was very excited to come work for her because it was this values-aligned setting for me. I wanted to work with kids who had disabilities, and I wanted to, try to make the world a better place. But I swiftly discovered, this being right out of grad school, that was trickier than I had thought. And there are frequently times where a kid would come in with extremely complex medical issues or extremely complex behaviors, usually both. And I didn't really know what to do. And the kid would be ricocheting off the walls of the gym and I after them. And I kind of think like, gosh, am I making these kids worse? Am I wasting their time? What am I even doing here? And Tracy really took me under her wing and kind of helped to cultivate me. Some of the specific things that I remember are there was a little girl who wanted to systematically remove all the toys from the shelf, and Tracy showed me how to set a kind but firm boundary with her. Tracy helped me to understand when and when not to call Child Protective Services if I needed to. It was tricky calls to make. And Tracy showed me, I think what I appreciated most of all was how some of my perceived shortcomings could actually be strengths in treating the kiddos I was working with. And keeping that in mind, by the end of my time there, about 75% of my caseload was hyperactive little boys, and I absolutely loved it. It was so fun. It was so fun. And this wasn't just unique to me. Tracy did this for all of us therapists. A lot of us were fairly green, just out of school, and she really worked on us. And what I really appreciated about her doing that is that oftentimes in these settings, it's not unreasonable to just expect your therapist to show up and know their stuff, collect a paycheck, and then go home. It's not a community building exercise. But Tracy understood that in order for our clinic to be a healing place, in order for our community of therapists and professionals to be healing to the children coming in, she needed to subvert the transactivity between us and the children we were serving, who were paying to be there, and we, the therapists, whom she was paying to be there, and that the relationship needed to not just be this bare bones thing that's about the money. It really needed to be about caring, and that's a higher calling for people who want to help others. So I'm deeply appreciative to her for that. And, you know, kind of looking back at all three, I think I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I am today without those women. And what can I do now to carry some of that love and some of that support forward? And as Alice also alluded to, you know, this is a tough time for a lot of women right now. When Donald Trump was elected, Tracy, my supervisor, broke out in hives. She was so stressed. I don't know what Patty would have said, but I'm sure, you know, she would have had some thoughts on it as well. And my mother was just in mute disbelief. So, you know, I think our challenge moving forward, especially us men during this Women's History Month, is to try to find ways to be sources of strength and compassion to the women in our lives right now, just as they have for us. And I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Our next hymn is number 131, Love Will Guide Us, which was written by Sally Rogers in 1985. A fun fact about Love Will Guide Us, maybe not everybody is aware of this practice, but over the years, hymn tunes take on names of their own, and then, you know, different writers will write new lyrics to them. For example, our beloved Blue Boat Home is based on a hymn tune called Hifredal that has been used throughout the ages. Sally Rogers wrote the tune for Love Will Guide Us. It was a brand new composition, and she decided to name the hymn tune Olympia, in honor of Olympia Brown, who was the first woman ordained in the United States as a Universalist minister in 1863. So, will you please rise in body or in spirit and join in the singing of Love Will Guide Us to the hymn tune Olympia.
Hope inside us.
This month, our offering goes to Planned Parenthood. Alice referred to a future-oriented task, laying down railroad tracks for a locomotive that hasn't been built. Margaret Sanger laid tracks when she founded the American Birth Control League in 1921. That group evolved into Planned Parenthood, which is the recipient of our offering this month. In this excerpt from her memoir, Untamed, activist Glennon Doyle describes the first shots fired in a war that Planned Parenthood is now fighting harder than ever. Quote, "In the 1970s, a few rich, powerful, white, outwardly straight men got worried about losing their right to continue racially segregating their private Christian schools and maintaining their tax-exempt status. Those men began to feel their money and power being threatened by the civil rights movement. In order to regain control, they needed to identify an issue that would be emotional and galvanizing enough to unite and politically activate their evangelical followers for the first time. They decided to focus on abortion. Before then, most evangelical leaders had been indifferent to the court's decision in Roe, and some were cited as supporting the ruling. Not anymore. They wrote a new memo using freshly feigned outrage and rhetoric calling for a holy war to lead the nation back to the moral stance that made America great. They disseminated the memo down to evangelical ministers who passed it down to pews across America. The memo read, "To be aligned with Jesus, to have family values, to be moral, one must be against abortion and gay people and vote for the candidate that is anti-abortion and anti-gay." Evangelicals threw their weight behind Ronald Reagan and voted in a bloc for the first time to elect him. The religious right was born. That is how white evangelicals became the most powerful and influential voting bloc in the United States. That is why all a political candidate must do to earn evangelical allegiance is claim to be anti-abortion and anti-gay. Even if the candidate is a man who hates and abuses women, who stockpiles money and rejects immigrants, who incites racism and bigotry, who lives in every way antithetical to Jesus' teachings. Evangelical leaders just keep pushing the memo. Don't think, don't feel, don't know. Just be against abortion and gays and keep on voting. That's how to live like Jesus. All the devil has to do to win is convince you he's God. Unquote. I invite you to give as generously as you are able. For those online, you can use the QR code or find a link in the video description. For those gathered in person, you can scan the QR code or make a donation as the ushers now pass the baskets. May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to the Boulder community.
In the warmth of your presence, I am safe at home. I will stand, I will stand. In the deepest conflict, I am not alone. I will will stand in myself when I'm not feeling strong. I will stand. I will stand. I will tear down the walls and sing a freedom song. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand with this spark in my hand. I will stand in the circle with the circle in me. I will stand. I will stand. I will gather the courage I have found in me. I will stand. I will stand. I will honor the vision of who I will be. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand with this spark in my hand. I will stand with the circle in me. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand with this spark in my hand. I will stand in the circle with the circle in me. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand.
Thank you, Chancel Cats. Into our world we commend our spirits. May the strength we have gained in this communal hour sustain us as we resume the work that is at hand. Will you rise in body or in spirit as we close in song, number 168, One More Step.
One More Step was written by prolific Canadian hymnist Joyce Poley, who is like your social justice super cool grandma who will teach you a bunch of protest songs and then also make you cookies. She's also the author of When Our Heart is in a Holy Place and We Give Thanks, which are both gems in the Teal hymnal.